All right, y'all. My voice is gone. Clearly, that's no secret. They're telling me I sound like Doc Rivers. What I am going to try to accomplish is giving y'all part 2 of the offseason in 10 to 11 minutes. I have to do this as quick as possible because my voice keeps going in and then out. And I don't want to have y'all listening to this for 25 or 30 minutes. I'm disappointed because obviously this is a video that's supposed to be big time and major, and I'm supposed to, you know what I mean, be able to go crazy, but I can't. But I'm going to get this video out to y'all. We're going to stay locked in, and I'm going to make this video up for y'all. When I'm better, I'm going to give y'all a damn near an hour video in this series, and it's going to be jam-packed. I promise. I promise. Just bear with me. Let's get through this 10 minute or 11 minutes of explaining everything that went down in the offseason as quick as possible. And I'm going to get better for y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next day or two. Anyway, diving right in. Don't want to waste any time. One of the biggest things of this offseason was Jimmy Butler. He was one of the biggest free agents names on the market, and free agency didn't really start until we figured out where he was going to go. A lot of the main free agents, they all went back to their teams. Kyrie went back to the Mavs. Braun went back to the Lakers. Harden went back to the Clippers. And there was a couple of times where it seemed like Jimmy Butler was going to team up with some of these guys. The closest was the Clippers. The Clippers were very close to being able to get James Harden and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler tried to take as big of a pay cut as he could, but ultimately, when James Harden signed with the Clippers, it took away all of what they had left to get Jimmy. But for a split second, it was saying that they both agreed to sign with the Clippers, and I was like, oh my goodness. But they ultimately didn't have enough salary cap space. I say all that to say that made Jimmy Butler have to pivot and do a sign and trade. And with the sign and trade, Jimmy Butler ultimately was traded from the Miami Heat to the Houston Rockets for Cameron Johnson, former first-round pick from this year's draft, Colin Murray Boyles, and then also in the deal was some draft pick leverage. And if y'all don't remember, Cam Johnson was also traded on draft day to the Rockets. So he was traded twice in about a week. And he was a part of the Jimmy Butler trade. So you get a first-round pick essentially with Colin Murray Boyles, who's kind of like a Royce White, kind of Draymond Greenish power forward. You get Cam Johnson, and the Miami Heat still have a decent, solid team. You got Terry Rozier. You signed Javon Carter. You still got Hero, Pele Larson. You went out and added Cody Martin. But ultimately, you got Flagg, Cam Johnson, Jaime Jaquez, Murray Boyles, Jovic, and you have Bam and Khalil Ware. So they're still not necessarily rebuilding, but off to a great start with retooling. And that was one of the biggest storylines of this offseason. Going forward, the Hornets had a really nice offseason. We obviously talked about the LaMelo Ball trade. That did wonders for them. They also brought back Trey Mann on a long-term deal, and they're going to be a team to watch during the regular season because they still have Dylan Brooks, who's going to be on the trade block. Miles Bridges going to be on the trade block. Clint Capella, they signed to a one-year deal, and they're going to have him on the trade block and try to get some assets to maybe flip him to a contending team during the season. Other teams, the Jazz didn't really do anything. They didn't have any room or any money to spend. They bring back the same team. The Kings, kind of the same. They went out and added Spencer Dinwiddie, Garrison Matthews, Jamal Cain. Nothing really that major for them. Same thing with the Knicks. They went out and got Dorian Finney-Smith, one of the most sought-after names on the market. But outside of that, they really have the same team for the most part. The Lakers, they brought back Braun, and that was pretty much their offseason. Outside of the trades where they got Marcus Smart and Anthony Simons. They did bring in DeLon Wright for some perimeter defense at the guard position. But like I said, pretty much the same team. The Magic, after going out and getting LaMelo, At the trade market, they signed veteran Kyle Lowry, who's in his last year. He's going to retire after this year. They were able to restructure a deal for Cam Thomas and bring him back on a friendly deal for the next 2 years. So he'll be a sixth man for them. And then they were also able to bring back Mo Wagner, which was a very big re-signing for them. And they're a team to now watch as contenders, in my opinion, after this offseason. Other teams around the league, the Mavericks, they pretty much brought back everybody. They added Josh Richardson, but they brought back Bruce Brown and Kyrie. You add Torrey Craig, who was another 3-and-D wing who had a very big market. And then, they added Thon Maker as well, which I thought was pretty funny. Brooklyn, outside of Houston, outside of Orlando, biggest offseason, in my opinion. You add Giannis from the trade market. You use that cap space that you had, and you go out and get Miles Turner, probably the best fit that you can have next to Giannis in the front court. Phenomenal signing. One of the biggest signings in the entire offseason. They also were able to go out and trade for Colin Sexton. They sent out a first-round pick and Cole Anthony, and you bring in Colin Sexton, who's going to be your sixth man. You allow Fred VanVleet, or convince Fred VanVleet, to sign a team-friendly 1-year deal. Houston allowed him to go into free agency by declining his team option of nearly $45 million, and he takes a pay cut to team up with Giannis and Miles Turner in Brooklyn. So you have a gritty, winning point guard in Fred, who's going to start and be able to knock down shots. You also bring in Gary Trent from Milwaukee, and he teams up with Giannis again. We talked about getting KCP in the trade. You get Bojan Bogdanovic to return on a 1-year deal, and then you add Karis LeVert. One of the biggest bargaining deals. For whatever reason, Karis LeVert had a market of $5 million. That's all he was asking for. This was one of the first signings that they did because they couldn't pass on Karis LeVert going for this cheap. And now you have Karis LeVert off your bench with Colin Sexton, and you add some more guys. Got to bring in Thanasis. You're adding Cody Zeller for more size, Jock Landale for more size, Tim Hardaway Jr. for more shooting. This was about as perfect of an offseason as the Nets could have imagined having. There was a point where it looked bad for them, but there was really no market for Fred VanVleet. It was like Brooklyn or a struggling rebuilding Bucks team, and he took the pay cut to come to Brooklyn. So you're going to have a starting lineup of Fred, KCP, Bogdanovic probably, Giannis, and Turner. And then your bench is going to be Jock Landale, probably Noah Clowney, or maybe Bogdanovic, small ball 4 off the bench. And then you go Fred, KCP, and Gary Trent. But then that bench is Colin Sexton. It's Karis LeVert, potentially Bogdan, Hardaway, Landale. Like, they're going to be a very scary team come to the regular season and playoffs out east. Nuggets didn't really do anything. Kind of brought back the same team, if we're being honest. The Pacers, they lose Miles Turner, and then they're forced to really bring back Benedict Mathurin on a long-term deal. You go out and you get Taurean Prince, I guess. And that's pretty much it, man. They really took an L losing Miles Turner in the offseason. Pelicans wanted to trade CJ McCollum. Didn't really have much suitors, so they'll look to do that in the regular season. Outside of that, a really quiet offseason for them as well. The Pistons, nothing crazy, but they were able to bring in some shooting. They brought back D'Angelo Russell after what he gave them in the playoffs, helping them advance to the second round, to the Eastern Conference Finals. But they also went in and added Duncan Robinson. You lose Tim Hardaway Jr. and you replace him with even better shooting, Duncan Robinson. And you also go out and add Nick Richards, who I think is going to be a really big help for them as far as rebounding the basketball off the bench. The Raptors, very quiet offseason, but they did bring in some wing defense and Matisse Thybulle. And then one of the biggest teams, the Rockets. They went out. They traded for Damian Lillard after striking out on Giannis. They bring in Dennis Schroeder on a very friendly deal to have him as a sixth man and a backup point guard. A steal, in my opinion. You have Jalen Green. You bring in a veteran, Steph Curry, for shooting. And like we talked about earlier, you were able to flip Cam Johnson, some draft capital, and your first-round pick from this year, and you go out and get Jimmy Butler to come in on a team-friendly deal of like two years, $23 million. And you got Jimmy and Dame with Jalen Green, Sengun, and Jabari. And you still have Amin Thompson and Tari Eason off of that bench while bringing back Steven Adams. And you still have Kanubu, the rookie from Duke, who can really shoot the basketball. And you bring in an energy player like Javonte Green. So I think the Rockets are going to be extremely scary and extremely dangerous. They have a go-to guy now, a couple of go-to guys. They got some defense. They got depth. They got shooting, versatility, size, grit. I cannot wait to see what they're going to be like in a regular season. As we continue, the Spurs, very quiet offseason, if we're being honest. They brought back a lot of their young guys, added Dario Saric. The Suns, they probably had the worst offseason of any contending or playoff team. In a year that's going to be very critical for them, they brought in Frank Jackson and PJ Dozier, and Chris Boucher is their biggest signing. They lose Monte Morris, they lose Tyus Jones, and they have not found a trade to get rid of Bradley Beal. If they were able to move Bradley Beal, they probably could have got Jimmy Butler. And he's not on the last year because I think he still has a player option as well for $55 million. So 57. So I don't know what they're going to do, but this is probably the last year of Kevin Durant in all seriousness, because this team is probably not going to be that good. The Thunder didn't really do much. They brought back all of their guys. They're going to run it back. The Timberwolves, very disappointing offseason. You bring back Nikhil, you bring back Nas, but there was nobody else, so you had to bring back Julius, and he had no market, so he had to go back to you. I don't think this is what they wanted, but they had no choice. You sign him for a 2-year deal, which helps because you're not paying him that much money. But I think both parties wanted to go opposite directions, but they couldn't. So you bring back basically the same team. The Blazers, I mean, outside of the trades, a quiet offseason. Steph Curry and the Warriors, they lose Kuminga for nothing. Bring in Monte Morris. Bring back Lindy Waters. Added PJ Tucker for some grit and some experience and some fight, some toughness. And that's pretty much it, man. You bring in Jetty Osman. Very tough offseason for them when they're trying to compete with Steph Curry on the last years of his career. Wizards, bring in Trey Jones after having his brother Tyus a couple years ago. And you bring in Zaire Williams. It's pretty much it for them. The Sixers bring back the same team after losing in the finals. And the Bucks, they spend money on Tyus Jones. They had the most money in the offseason at $80 million. So they're going to try to flip him at the deadline. They're also going to try to flip Larry Nance and Bobby Portis. But their main signing, the biggest splash, was using that cap space to offer Jonathan Kuminga $88 million over 3 years at damn near $30 million a year. And you were able to bring him away from the Warriors, who did not want to match that. So now their youth movement is going to be Reed Shepherd, Cam Whitmore, Ace Bailey, Jonathan Kuminga, and Nicholas Claxton plus Rocco. And they just going to ride it out and flip the vets at the deadline. That's their new movement. And then almost last but not least, the Bulls, our beloved Bulls. We went out and had a really good offseason, in my opinion. We brought back Lonzo. We added Delano Banton, who I think is a really underrated signing for us. We also went out and added Luke Kennard. For the type of offense and the type of play style we're going to play with Mike D'Antoni, he is going to be very pivotal. I can't even speak. Pivotal. I'm sorry. Pivotal. This is crazy right now. But his shooting is going to be big and major for us as we empower Modest Buzelis to play with the basketball in this offense. So being able to have Kobe White, Luke Kennard, and Trey Johnson, shot makers. We also, my favorite deal, we brought in Santi Aldama. We were able to bring him away from the Grizzlies because they didn't want to match the deal because they're going to have major money to spend in the next offseason. This was very big to me and made me feel really good because I didn't know if we were going to be able to get him. And then we also bring in Brook Lopez, who's going to space the floor as a 5 in this offense. And we're going to match his minutes with Day'Ron Sharpe as a rebounding young big. So they're going to split time for us at the center position. Very good offseason for us. We now pivot by trying to trade and find a trade for Patrick Williams during this season. The Cavaliers brought back the same team, but they were able to take advantage of the Bucks rebuilding, and they flipped Max Strus and George Niang for Chris Middleton. And now the Cavs have a small forward who fits perfectly between the backcourt and the front court, and who's also a vet who is going to help them in a lot of different ways. So that's a very big pickup for them. The Celtics brought back the same team, same starting 5, and then the Clippers bring back Kawhi and Harden, but they add Campaign, D'Anthony Melton, Cam Reddish, and Andre Drummond to spice up the bench and the depth. Grizzlies brought back Brandon Ingram. That was their main focus. Also added Reggie Jackson. But again, a lot of these guys are on one-year deals. Scottie Pippen Jr., Vince Williams Jr., Jalen Wells, Gigi Jackson, Zach Edey. So they're going to have to spend their money next year, which is why they ultimately let Santi Aldama go. They also brought in Alex Lynn. The Hawks, they lose Clint Capella. They empower Double O as the new starting center. Their main priority, Dyson Daniels, they brought him back. And they'll have the same type of year as they did last year as far as the roster goes. And that's pretty much everything that happened in the offseason. Again, I wish I could have made this video a little longer. You got 17, 18 minutes. I'm going through it. I'm struggling. I'm going to make it up to y'all. Thank you so much to everybody who fought through listening to this, who's going to show love and hit the like button and leave comments. I can't thank y'all enough. This is very tough to do, but we here. We made it to the finish line, and the next episode, we're going to make sure we use the random event generator to really add in more storylines. Thank y'all. I sincerely and genuinely love y'all and appreciate y'all. I'm going to go get some rest and try to heal my voice, and I'll see y'all tomorrow somehow, some way. But I'm out. Peace.